cents. I asked her to come in and do a presentation before the board, and she never did it, so I moved that.
I guess just some more background on what you were left with when you started as supervisor. As a board member, how were you unaware that this was going on with the finances?
I was appointed in 2005, and we were going to do the budget. Chad got us some of us all to do the budget. The secretary at the time came out, and she was the bookkeeper secretary. She came out to do it, and the numbers were wrong. And Terry Neiman from the highway department said, "I don't have $200,000 fund balance. I do not have that money." She said, "Oh, you should do it, it's fine." So they looked, and they finally agreed that the numbers were bad. This was the first opportunity we had to look at it, and I'd been on for at that time I'd been on about 9 months, so that was my first experience doing it. So Chad sent us away and had Donna refigure the numbers, called us for another work session when we got there, and the numbers were bad, and Terry was just on the ceiling, said, "This is not right, I know these numbers aren't right, I want you to call our accountant." So he called in Tom Lawfer for the third time, the third work session that we were going to be there. And Tom Lawfer sat down, and without exaggeration, he went like this. Well, there's $449,000 mistake right there. I'm not an accountant, so I never had first experience with it. So they went back and forth, and they couldn't decide what numbers we had. So Chad sent us away again, and we ran out of time, had to approve the budget. So we did what Chad assembled. He says, "This is the best we're going to get." So we did that, enacted the budget, and then at January meeting, Marie Little, the town clerk, came in with Tom Arlington, the building inspector, as well as Dan Morse. And by that time, the previous secretary went out on medical leave for having the operation. Well, her friend came in to do the books, and her friend said to Marie, "You don't have any money in the bank. Checks are bouncing." I called the bank, and the bank says, "You don't have this money here. The ledgers aren't adding up." So Marie came in and advised the board, but by that time the budget was already set as far as that goes, and we knew we were in a disaster course. There was nothing more we could do because now we were into the next year for that. So I knew when I took over for Chad, I knew that there were bad things. Chad said he didn't think it was as bad as everybody thought, but in fact it was as bad. So I'd only been there for a year.
Right.
So for me to take over as supervisor and do that, if I get voted out of office after 1 year, I said, "Well, that's the price." I figured everybody was going to shoot the messenger. So I said, "Well, that's the price I'm going to pay. I'll do it," because nobody else was willing to do that. And Chad couldn't do it because he'd been a councilman for too long, so he would have been associated with it. So he did the best he could, and I said, "Well, I'll do it." I fully expected that the people would just hang me, for the 33%, but it's kind of squeaked by. So this year they still think that somehow I caused them to be $1 million in the red. Even though the budget came out good, it's still good now. And but even if that's what happens, that's okay, because I got the opportunity to fix the budget. The town's okay. Got a master plan going. The master plan will give the town not only physical but financial direction as well, along with the gas board plan, the revitalization plan there. The town's in good shape. People are now aware of the problem. They're never going to let this happen again.
Are the people who made that problem happen, are they gone?
Oh no, they're there at every meeting. Like I said,
so the budget might be all right, but the personnel's still a problem.
Pardon?
The personnel's still a problem. As far as the budget's all right number-wise, or it's getting to be close, but there's still personnel issues. I mean,
we have Lloyd and Donna or Dick Lang's back. They're backing them 100%. And they were there at the budget meeting last night. They were there at candidates night. And every time I was speaking, Lloyd was there going, bullshit, lies. He's going, and I was surprised that Bob Copper didn't tell him to get out because he set the rules before that.
Yeah.
But he's there, and he was kind of hiding, so I couldn't see him because he was sitting right behind me, right away, very well, the big guy. And every time I move over here, his eyes down, he wouldn't look at me. But that's, stand up and say, if you think that I'm doing something wrong, well, stand up and say exactly what it is. Tell everybody what it is that I'm doing wrong and you did right. But he does this to me all the time. And that's what, and then Donna suddenly knows everything there is to know about our budget.
But I guess I'm just still kind of lost if it was so bad to begin with. Is she civil service, or
No.
how do you not get rid of somebody who made such clerical errors?
Well, that's why Lloyd and Donna hate me, because I told Chad, when we finally agreed to pass the budget, I told Chad, I said, if the budget includes Donna in this budget, then I'm gonna vote no, and if people ask me why I'm voting no, I'm gonna come right out and tell them. He said, well, how about if I just, we'll hire somebody else, but we'll keep her on for 12 hours. And I said, if she's here for 1 hour, I don't care what it is, then I'm voting no on the budget. So then he kind of took a poll, and everybody had no confidence in her, they wanted him to fire. So he fired her, and Lloyd blamed me for being fired, which is true, but she was totally incompetent.
I've monopolized everything, so.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, what are the safeguards now that things stay in the right accounts and that doesn't happen again? It's not based on personality.
Several things. I hired a new accountant. The board, I recommended the board agreed to it. We now have Lawrence McCormick from Lockport and Buffalo. Excellent accountants. They used to be our accountants a long time ago, and they've just completed our end of year report. Tom Lawler was supposed to do it, and he didn't do it, so I hired Lundstrom in March, and it took them 6 months to do the end of year report. They thought they would do it just a little while. Lundstrom and McCormick also will come to the board meetings. They've agreed to come to our board meetings to talk to the public. Tom Lawler would never come to our. He refused to come to the board meetings and talk to the public about our budget. And when I went through, I included the whole board in building the budget, and I also included all the department heads. For the first time, Dan Morse from the water. Now the water is where we got in trouble, but that's the supervisor's check. Dan Morse is the superintendent of water, and he's appointed by the supervisor. So it's a supervisor's budget for the water department. Well, he was never invited to come to the budget meetings. So I invited him to come, Scott Little, who was his deputy, our accountants, Kenny Strell, and our attorney, Tom Brand. Those folks that had never before been invited to the budget workshops before. Marie Little, anybody else from town, any of the employees, any of the public, a lot of places you'll go and public can watch what you're doing, but they don't have any input. I wanted to have the input because everybody's got something to offer. Even down in White last year, we were actually had good things to offer on the budget. In between, it would go hot and cold. Sometimes they'd be giving me jabs, and then sometimes they'd be doing some positive, constructive criticism. But every one of the board members now knows how to work the budget. We all learned together. We did it under a microscope in a spotlight, the worst possible conditions. People yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs. And I mean yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs. But they weren't yelling at all the board members. They were all yelling at me out there for the problem. So this has been fixed. Nobody wants to go through it again. Everybody now has a better understanding of the budget when we build the budget. So they just finished it last night, and they went through line by line by line. We started that was the third one. The first one when I went to, after I gave the tentative budget to Marie, and then she gave it back to the board. Went to the first one, we went through every single line item other than the revenue. Next one I didn't make, and they went through all the revenue. And then last night I talked to Lee Criswell, deputy supervisor, and he said he didn't expect any problem at all. They went through the everything there, made sure everything was as it should be, and nobody had any additions or deletions. And so it worked out well. One thing they found when I was there the first time, as a matter of fact, it was Donna Van Buren who brought it up. It was in